Y'all gonna get tired of me saying this, but I'm gonna keep saying it. Everybody has mental health and everybody has mental illness. Mental illness comes after your mental health is not cared for. When you don't take care of your mental health, that's when you get the mental illness. And just because you have mental illness, it does not mean that you're crazy. Because if that's the case, everybody in the world is crazy. This is a brand new podcast. My name is Jannetta Marie, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. And the name of my podcast is The Kitchen Table. And why the kitchen table? Because in my culture growing up, there's where we would have a lot of conversations around the kitchen table. And so this is going to be a focus of mental health and parenting. Yes, that's right. Mental health and parenting. And we're going to dig into it. So I actually going to start off with mental health, and then I'll teeter-totter between mental health and parenting. So, and in my podcast segment, there are going to be options for you guys to send in any questions that you have. And I promise you, I will try to answer most of them to the best of my ability. So let's get into it, okay? Yes, I got the laptop on my lap because, I'm a little old, so I got to make sure that I stay on task. But why I think that having the conversation about mental health is important. And the reason why, because it matters. Everybody has mental health. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much money you don't have. Everybody has mental health. Even the people that lives in the big mansions and stuff, we all have it. And I'm pretty sure everybody sees it every day on social media, on the TV, everywhere. We can see mental health. So I think it's very important for us to start having these conversations, because we start having these conversations, we can be more comfortable with talking about it. And it also can remove the stigma from it. So whether you have a mental health diagnosis, you still have mental health. And some of y'all have some diagnosis, but have not been diagnosed. But there is a name for them symptoms that you have. And so what I really want to talk about, there is a difference between mental health and mental illness. And so why are we going to talk about mental health and mental illness? And a lot of times people think that they are interchangeable, just like people think feelings and emotion are interchangeable. They are not. There is a difference. Feelings is what we feel. We all can have them. There is no negative feelings at all. They're all neutral. The outer expression of those feelings are emotions. I just want to get that clear to everybody. Feelings and emotions are different. One is what we're feeling. The other is how we express it outwardly. So sometimes when we talk about mental health and mental illness, that can lead to some confusion. So by clarifying this, it will also help normalize the conversations, would also reduce the stigma, and it will promote proactive care. So for parents, you're going to learn how to support your kids navigating changes and stressing and stuff. For educators, you're going to be able to recognize when your students might need help. Okay. And so these are some of the things that we're going to be doing. Let me see. Let me make sure that I'm right on track. So I do apologize if I keep looking down. I just want to make sure I'm staying on point. So mental health, what it does, it improves our emotional, our psychological, and our social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, and how we behave daily. So an example of mental health is just being a successful managing stress in your life. From a busy work day. Everybody is busy. Everybody want to have 100 streams of income. And so they busy because they trying to get those papers so they can live a certain lifestyle. Um, People feeling content and connected after spending time with their loved ones and just seeking help to process emotions after a challenging event. So when we talk about mental health is you're able to manage stress and you're able to manage different challenges that you may have in life. You're able to have they're manageable to you, and you know how to do it healthy without it impacting your day-to-day activity. So in other words, let's look at depression. So everybody know depression is just a fancy word for feeling sad, down, and blue. And so normal depression will be like, I'm very sad today, because I don't know. I just got up and things wasn't going right for me. And I learned that I am going to have to switch office. So the office that I have all my stuff in, I get to work and they say, hey, we're going to have to move your office because this, that, and the third. And so now I'm feeling sad and I'm also feeling angry because I don't want to move this stuff. I got everything like I wanted and now I got to. So yeah, you navigate through that, you get through that, and you end up moving your office and you're able to continue your day. You're able to continue doing what you need to do and it did not have any major impact on you. That's what mental health looks like. It was a small, stressful situation. It was very challenging for you because you had to get your thoughts together and get your mind right to transition into another office. So that's exactly what that is. So mental health, it is universal. It is not about perfect, but it's about maintaining a balance and resilience. So, mental illness, on the other hand, is different. Mental illness happens when you don't take care of your mental health. So, when it's not cared for, it turns into mental illness. Well, what is mental illness? What does that look like? We are going to say extreme, deeply major depression, anxiety, which is just another fancy word for worrying. Those are the two most common ones, is what we call mental illness. Now, mental illness, it refers to a specific disorder that affects your mood, your thinking, your behavior, and your overall doing an over period of time, sustaining over a period of time. So the common ones are already named: depression, anxiety disorder. We have bipolar. We have PTSD, post-trauma stress disorder. Some people have, eating disorder. And then the more extreme ones is schizophrenia. So the impact of mental illness: chronic symptoms that interfere with daily functioning. So earlier, I just gave y'all an example on what just mental health looked like. So a person had to move out their office, they had to move to another one. They was a little stressed. They was feeling a little down, anxious, a little angry inside, all of those. But they were able to really kind of manage that. It did not impact their work, their productivity for the day. It didn't impact them like taking care of themselves and doing what they need to do. Well, when it turns into mental illness and you have this diagnosis, it's different. It means that whatever this diagnosis may be, which could be any of the ones that I just named out, it can have an impact on your day-to-day life activities, your quality of life. So we'll just use depression because everybody has some form of it, some symptoms, and some level of that. So some people who have depression, how can it impact you? We're down as mental illness because we're not taking care of it. Some people have a hard time getting out of the bed. So if I don't get out of the bed, that means either I have a job, but I'm not going to have it long. And so if I can't keep a job because I'm so down and I'm so depressed that I don't even want to leave my house, what happens is you don't have no job, you don't have no check, you don't have no money, you can't pay no rent, you can't pay no bills. You'll lose all of that or you'll be in jeopardy of losing that, which causes a lot of stress. We'll talk about stress in a whole nother podcast because I think people get them mixed up. Stress and mental illness is not the same thing. But anytime that you feeling sad, you lose your appetite, so you're not eating. And sometimes I know you can lose your appetite for a day or two, for a meal here or there. Some of us need to miss a couple of meals, but not that way. But yeah. So if you not eating healthy, and so when you're not eating healthy, you're not eating enough, it is impacting now your physical health. And so you being able to be healthy enough just to live, that's another way that it can impact you. Anxiety, worrying about a lot of things, like worrying about your family, worrying about you, worrying about friends, how we going to make it, how this is going to happen. And so sometimes you can worry about a whole list of things that you have that it can overwhelm you. And when you get overwhelmed, you don't want to deal with it. Some people can just like, let me just check out. I won't do not one thing because I got this whole list of things that I'm worried about that needs to get done, that this list is so long that I'm just mentally and physically tired. I don't even want to figure it out. I don't even have the energy to figure it out. So I'm just not going to do it, knowing that you need to do something, because if you don't, something major is going to happen, but you don't have like the strength or the fortitude to do that. That's what it means when we say mental illness, and it is impacting your life, your day to day. Let me just clarify some things. Mental illness is not a choice, or is it a weakness? It is a medical condition required understanding and support. So once again, y'all gonna get tired of me saying this, but I'm gonna keep saying it. Everybody has mental health and everybody has mental illness. Mental illness comes after your mental health is not cared for. When you don't take care of your mental health, that's when you get the mental illness. And just because you have mental illness, it does not mean that you're crazy. Because if that's the case, everybody in the world is crazy. It does not mean that you slow. It really don't. We all just have it. So we need to start talking about it so we can normalize it. Some of y'all got it and y'all have all the symptoms. Y'all just don't have the language for it. It's kind of like when you a child and if you experience any type of trauma, you don't have no language for it. It's like it becomes a norm, and it's not until you open up to some people or a therapist or something about it that will give you the language to that. A lot of us, even, let me just go on and talk about the emotions, the outer expressions of our feelings. Some of us act them out very well. We don't say it. We don't talk, oh, I'm upset. Oh, I'm angry. We just act them out very well. And we all can tell what's going, if you angry, happy because of your behaviors. And sometimes when we do act them out, it is in a very unhealthy manner. And so a lot of people like to put you crazy on that, or you gone, or something loose in the head, because of the way that we are expressing those feelings, the way that we're acting out those emotions. And so that I think that that's where some of the stigma comes from, is because of that. But guys, I promise you, you're not crazy. I am a licensed clinical social worker and I have a therapist. I deal with depression. I deal with seasonal depression. So we know in the winter months, no, I'm not real good in the winter months. So yeah, I do go to my doctor and I get my happy pills, but I know that it's just going to be for a small period of time that I am going to be in that. And I do have a good, strong support system during that time that really helped me out during that time. And so if you guys think that mental health therapists and counselors, like they're good, they don't need no therapy, that's a lie. If you got a therapist, they need a therapist too. Every therapist need a therapist. Every doctor need a doctor. Every teacher needs a teacher. So let's just make that clear. Let's get some clarity on that. There is nothing wrong with a therapist seeing a therapist themselves. And if you a therapist and you're not seeing a therapist, that just kind of makes me wonder, like, hey, what's going on? Because just listening to people problems all day and helping them process it and giving them the tools and stuff, that can mentally wear and tear you down. And how we know that's the truth, because there's been a short a therapist since COVID. It's not enough therapists. A lot of therapists like took a break. A lot of them switch careers, start coaching, and doing all other things because it's a lot. So if you're a therapist and you don't have a mental health therapist, I'm gonna tell you to go get one. Um, let's see. What we're gonna do now is talk about breaking the stigma. Why does the stigma exist? Historically, misunderstanding about mental health. Uh, that's all across every man, everybody has really did not have a good understanding of mental health. We have spiritual leaders, church pastors don't have an understanding about about mental health. Yep, I'm talking about y'all. We have teachers who do have no clue, just like no clue about mental health. We see it every day. Law enforcement have no clue about mental health, and parents, you have no clue about mental health. And so, let me give y'all some examples. So, I used to be a counselor in a school, and I was in a school where we could say half of the kids couldn't read or write, and there was a challenge. And they'll come in and they're not able to really learn because there was a lot of disruptive behaviors. And the reason why there was a lot of disruptive behaviors is because there was a lot of things going on in the kids' home. And when there's a lot of trauma in your home, your neighborhood, your community, um, there's a part of your brain is shut down, and we'll talk about that in a later podcast, that does not register for you to learn and to understand because you were always in a fight, flight, or freeze. And so, because of this and because of their lack of understanding, when most of the teachers will try to handle these behaviors, when they try to talk to the children or whatever, they're talking to them. The route and the method that they would use is a method that them talking to a child who has never experienced trauma. They using those skills. And when you have children or people who have experienced trauma, especially if they have not even gotten any help for it and don't even know anything about it, um, those are the wrong skills. So you're expecting someone to respond in a same way as someone who's never experienced any type of trauma, any type of issues at all. That's the perspective that you have. And it becomes frustrating because you're doing this and you're saying this, and the child or the kids are not getting it. They don't understand it. There's a different language that you have to use when you are dealing with people who have mental health or mental illness issues. If you don't understand it, you don't know the language, the only thing that you'll be doing is escalating the situations. We see it all the time on the news, on social media, especially with law enforcement. We see it all the time. And even when it comes down to law enforcement, you serve the community no purposes if they're not going to go get any psychological testing. They need to go get psychological testing because there is some levels of mental illness that people have, and there's some job some job careers that they have no business being in because they are not mentally stable, they're not mentally healthy. And when you're not mentally stable, you're not mentally healthy, everything that you touch is toxic. I don't care how much training you give somebody, everything that they touch is toxic. And that goes from the teachers, and it also goes to the parents too. So this is why mental health is so dear to my heart. This thing, I tell everybody, look, I grew up And that was just trauma. And anybody that's Black and brown, everybody's experienced trauma. No lie, I'm not going to take that for anybody. At some levels, you have experienced trauma. But anybody that's Black and brown, trauma is in our DNA and it's very complicated. So it's not like a normal level of trauma. It is very complicated. And when you've been in complicated trauma, it's normalized and you don't know how to name from it. Everybody think that it's just okay. Oh, that's just how they are. Well, that's just how we are. That's our culture and stuff. And we make unhealthy things a norm. And when we normalize unhealthy, then there's where we get stuck because we think there's nothing wrong with it. So I didn't even know that I didn't know what trauma was, didn't know what it looked like until I went and sat down and went to my first session in my late 30s. It was my early 30s, maybe middle 30s, where when I went to actually see a counselor. And the only reason why I went to go see it, because I was in a transitional program, and that was what was required for me. And it would be those sessions where I got the language to everything that I experienced. And so I just think that it's very important that if you're going to be any type of public service office, public service person, meaning if you're working with the public, whether it's DHS, whether it's working at your local public health department, whether it's your firefighter, whether you in a law enforcement, whether you're a teacher, anybody that has a position where you are literally working with the public and helping them, you need some type of thorough training in mental health. And having a couple of psychology classes does not, it does not give you what you need to get to provide and understand, mental health care for people. So in other words, my undergrad degree is in psychology. I worked for a mental health psychiatric hospital. How long did I work for them? I don't even think I worked for them for a year. Even before I worked in the psychiatric hospital, I also worked for a couple of children homes where kids are in the home because they in and out of, foster care, in and out of their mom's home, caregivers' homes or whatever. And when I tell you guys, I had an degree. My undergraduate degree was in psychology, and I thought I knew everything, baby. When I went and worked at the psychiatric hospital, I didn't understand none of that. The people that I worked with didn't understand none of that. So the care that the kids got was horrible. I didn't know at the time. It wasn't until I went back and got my graduate degree and I started studying about mental health and mental illness, what it looks like and what type of support people need. I promise you guys, people that are working in the psychiatric hospital that are like, what you call them mental health techs and stuff, no, they need training. Law enforcers, just because y'all took a couple of psychology classes, you don't understand mental health. You need some training because once you get the training, you get some good deep training, then the light bulb will come on. Some other reasons why, let me look to make sure because I didn't went over a little. I'm staying on point. Why stigma exists. Fear of being judged or labeled. That is one of the horrible things that we do all day long in this society. People will keep it quiet. They don't want nobody to know because they fear that they're going to be judged. People going to label them, call them cuckoo. Oh, girl, look, they got a couple of wires cut up here. There's a couple of mobbers up in their head. That's what they say. And if you got, if you got some type of mental diagnosis, they don't want to be around you because they don't want people to think that, hey, I'm crazy just like them. You're not crazy if you have a diagnosis. People walking around here don't have one. But once again, like I always say, they have it. So fear of being judged and fear of being labeled. And I understand the fact of being labeled, but what you guys have to understand is that when you have mental illness, you still can live a good life. You still can, nothing, as long as you taking care of it. It's kind of like if you have heart disease and you have some type of heart condition, you still can have a good life, but there's some adjustments that you're going to have to make. There is also some medication that you're going to have to take to manage that. And that's what mental illness is. You still can be diagnosed and you still be able to do what you want to do as long as you're taking care of it. Now, when you're not taking care of it and it's getting out of control, yeah, we got some questions right there. But other than that, no. So people are fearful. And a lot of times fear comes from the unknown. So if you don't understand it, you don't know the ins and outs of it. So people fear that. And so that's a normal to be fearful from the unknown. And as far as the judging and labeling, well, that's what society does real good these days. We do a lot of labeling people, we do a lot of judging people. And hey, you could let them influence you on if you go and get help for your mental health or not. I always say this to everybody because people always have something negative and positive to say about Ian and everything. Everybody gonna have an opinion about something. People gonna always put a label on you or what. If you know who you are, you don't have to worry about labels. And when it talks about being judged and what people going to say about you, you have to ask yourself. I tell people this all the time. Ask yourself 2 questions: how does people judgment and opinion that they have of you? How does it impact your income? How is it impacting your paycheck? Just let that sit in for a little while. I mean, is it increasing your paycheck? Is it decreasing your paycheck? If it don't have no effect on your paycheck, that means that it doesn't have an impact on your quality of life. Uh, Move around. So, I know I'm getting off a little, but this just burns me up when it comes down to people, their opinion and their labels and stuff. It's up to you if you allow it to impact how you look at yourself. And how you would move and how you would treat yourself. And so if you're letting what people say and what they think about you, if you let it having a negative impact on you at all, then that just lets us know that you don't have a very bright, good, healthy outlook about who you are anyway. And it did not start as an adult. It starts as a child. We'll talk about that. That's a whole nother subject with parenting. So it's not them. You have to look at you like, why I think it's okay and why do I allow this to happen? What's in you that make it justifiable for that? Like when you get old, you'll learn that you don't have to respond to everything. Everything doesn't need a response. And everything doesn't need a immediate response. If it's a life and death situation, those are the only situations that need an immediate response. If it's not, you just sit and think if I want to respond and why and how. Everything doesn't need a response. Sometimes silence is a real good, it's a good weapon. Media portraying that that has sensationalization or misrepresenting mental illness. So you guys are going to have to stop listening to the media. I'm just going to say it. Yeah, this is a podcast. I want y'all to challenge me. That's why I got a Q&A session. So after you watch this podcast and you have some questions, you are able to send them in. I will read them live on the broadcast. But what I want you guys to start practicing is not believing everything that you hear. You got to go do your own research. In my culture, we call it receipts. If you don't have no receipts to back that up, then it's not facts. Just because people have big feelings and big emotions about what they feel that may be true to them, you got to come with me with some receipts. Where's the documentation saying that this is right? That, okay, this is this. And I challenge you guys. I'm talking about mental health. I'm talking about mental illness. I'm telling you guys what the difference. Now I want to challenge you to go research. Just don't take my word for it. Go and research. You cannot be gullible. I mean, America is very gullible. Like, people will sit up there and believe whatever. That's not me. I'm getting ready to go do some research. I got questions to answer, and I'm going to answer them questions. So, yeah, you got questions to answer, even with some of the information that I'm giving you. Bring it on. I'm encourage you. Go do some research. Go get the receipts behind that. I'm a church girl, y'all. I'm a preacher kid. My daddy, he's passed away, but I grew up in the church. And one of the things that I learned after I got grown, after I became an adult and went through some churches, at that time, boy, I was not the best member. I probably wasn't the member them pastors wanted. But what I learned in the process of that is that even though the pastors are preaching and they're teaching the word, you have the responsibility to go back and check it for yourself. You cannot take people at their word. I don't care how nice they are. I don't care how good they package that up. You have that responsibility to go back and study for yourself. And that is too much material out there, too many encyclopedias, too many whatever, too much research out there for you not to go study. So if you decide to take somebody's word or they own without doing the research, then that's on you with whatever happens. You don't have no right to be mad at nobody but yourself. So I know there's a lot of podcasts is going on. I know a lot of people have YouTube channels, people on social media saying this, and that. And I mean, I listen to it, but I like to read too, and I like history. I'm going to go check. Oh, I'm going to go Google. Go Google a whole lot of stuff. They'll pull up all the research on everything and tell you where you need to go get it. Go do your research. Because when you are not educated, you don't have power. Why you think they trying to change rules now? Why you think they try to censor a lot of people and they're trying to, discontinue books and stuff? Because when you're educated, when you have knowledge, then the light bulbs clicked on, and now there limits the people's power to control you. That's why it's a big thing. So if we don't teach this and we don't show people this and we shut this down and we shut that down, that means that they're not going to know anything, and we still can tell lies and we still can manipulate and control, because that's basically what it is. And so, but I do want y'all to know this. I'm getting back on mental health. I know I got off a little. I do want you guys to know this. You can have knowledge, but it's not wisdom until it's applied. So it even goes further than, let me go and get the knowledge about this. Let me see how I can apply this. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of application talks on here, how you can apply a lot of things. Some of the things that we can start doing to reduce the stigma is using positive language. And some of that language is like, avoid saying that you crazy or you weak, Instead, you can just say that, hey, I'm just having a couple of, mental challenges, and be okay with that, trying to go and seek help to get help. You got to educate yourself. Once again, learning about mental illness. And then sometimes when you get to a place, you can start sharing stories. One thing I like about sharing stories is that sometimes you can be in a place and you think that only you experiencing this and you can kind of feel alone. Then when somebody share their story and their story is something similar or just like what you're experiencing, it gives you some type of comfort. It's like, oh, okay. So this ain't me. Other people do experience that. And that just helps. And it just really encourage people, to get the help that they need. But we have to start talking about it, you guys. And knowing that you're not crazy. We're going to have to normalize these discussions and normalizing these feelings. And I do want to say this, though. Look, if I have mental illness and I'm learning my triggers and I'm learning how my body, is reacting to certain things, certain people, y'all, it's nobody else's responsibility but yours. It's my responsibility to make sure that I handle them okay. No one should have to change who they are because of your illness. If that's the case, that person is maybe a little bit too toxic for you. So that means that you either need to set boundaries or that's just a relationship that you don't need. Nobody should have to ever walk around on eggshells because your illness, your mental illness, and that's not fair to them and that's not fair to you. So you have to be sensitive in making sure that you're in the right environment, the right company, and no one else should have to make those adjustments. Because I think what I've seen a lot here is people being triggered and they're like, oh, you just triggered me. You don't care about my feelings and all that, this, that, and the other. And it's not really necessarily the truth. And so no one should be feeling bad because something they said or did not sit with you well, or it triggered you and took you back into a moment where you've experienced something that was not healthy or that was not good for you. So what am I saying is this: we should always handle and talk to people with care regardless of what's going on. Let me just give a quick example. So I used to be a licensed funeral director and embalmer. And so in the embalming phase, what I learned in school and what I continued throughout my career was I don't care who I embalm, everybody have AIDS. Yes. So if I treated everybody that have AIDS when whether they had it or not, what did that mean for me? That means that I always wore 3 pair of gloves. That means that I always had on that moon jumpsuit. I had on all the covers, the shoe covers. I had my face seal on because I am treating this person like they got AIDS. I treated them with care and I just treat them like they had AIDS so I can be protected. So why I say that? I say that to say this. Everybody goes through something. Everybody deals with something. And being nice and kind doesn't cost you anything. You should always want to treat people nice and kind. Now, is everybody going to receive it? No, everybody probably not going to receive it. But if you know your heart posture and your heart posture is right, you shouldn't beat yourself over the head for it. And it really don't have anything to do with you if that person or group of people didn't receive it, or if they was offensive to it. Like, you don't have to get in no big fighting match or whatever. Just keep it moving. So, let me see. I hope you guys have some questions. Please send some questions in. And let me get into this. How to support your mental health daily. Sorry, my eye is running. So here are some tips with daily supporting your mental health. Self-care. These are some self-care tips. I want everybody to repeat after me. Self-care is not going to get my hair, my nails done, hanging out with my friends. That's not self-care. I'm telling y'all. Me going out to a restaurant and enjoying myself and going to a movie. Self-care is none of that. What is self-care? Self-care is where you taking daily measures to make sure that you're caring for yourself. prioritizing your sleep, making sure that you get enough rest. That's what self-care looks like. You make sure that you need to get anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of just sleep. You guys know when you don't get good sleep and you're not getting enough rest, that your body is not detoxing. Don't you know there is a realm of sleep that you have to get to for your body to actually have the toxin to move out of your body? Um, Practice mindfulness or meditation for stress relief. When we talk about mindfulness, mindfulness is kind of like it's a whole bunch of exercises that you could do. So one of the ones that I like when it comes down to mindfulness is like you can do some progressive muscle exercising, meaning that I can hold my hand and then release. I can do the same thing with my face, tighten up those muscles and release. Another thing with mindfulness and what mindfulness does, it helps you refocus. So if I have something going on in my head because I got a lot going on and I have no control of that, but it still just keep playing. So in order for me to refocus, I can just sit in the room and I am going to activate all 5 senses. I'm going to see what I smell. I'm going to take that in. I'm going to see how this seat feeling that I'm sitting in. I'm going to just sit and be quiet and listen to the sounds. I'm going to look at the tiles and the ceiling and count them. I'm going to look for different colors in the room and count and look at the different colors, different shapes, different sizes. Those are some things that you can do with mindfulness because what it does, it takes you off. Move the focus off of what has been just going on over and over and over, and it helps you refocus. Get your mind temporarily off of that so you can reset it. Meditation. Meditation is real good. So some people, they can meditate on different things. I know a lot of Christians, they meditate on the Bible, reading the Bible and meditating on that. And it's just focusing on something and making meditation something positive. You don't want to meditate on anything negative because it's just going to add fuel to the fire. Building connections is very important. Let me go back a little. You also have to engage in a hobby, activities that brings joy. So one of the things that I did last year, I went and took some voice lessons. Yeah, I went to go take voice lessons because I just wanted to sing at a karaoke. And Christmas time came, I wanted to sing my favorite Christmas carols. I was going to go do a concert, at a karaoke. Baby, I got a real vocal coach. Ooh, he is real good, dog. Baby, when I tell you he worked me. I thought he was preparing me to sing back up for Beyonce, okay? And I was just like, okay, I just really wanted this to be fun, but he was real serious about it. I learned a lot of things, all them lip trolls and in enunciation and that right breathing. But I really enjoyed that. So it was very enjoyable for me. Finding things that you enjoy to do. Some of you guys like to paint. You can go to a little paint and sip, and paint and sip doesn't always necessarily mean alcohol. You can bring your own drink if you want it to be tea or water or whatever, and engaging with other people that have the same interests, going taking a dancing class or something, finding a hobby, an activity that you enjoy doing. Some people like the knit, some people like the sew. So figuring out what it is that you like and finding the time to do it. You gotta make space for that. Another thing that we can do is building those connections. Spending time with your loved ones. Joining support groups or social groups. I know that a lot of people that attend church, they have a lot of activities, different groups that you can join at church. If church not your thing, then go and see what you can find in the community. Get connected. Find your community centers in your town, in your city, wherever you at, and seeing what activities that they have for you to connect with people who have same interests. Support groups. There are all different type of support groups. I know there's support groups for moms who have lost children. There's support groups for people who have experienced loss and death. There's also support groups for, people who have substance use issues like uh, the AA, and then they got Celebrate Recovery and stuff. So seeing what those support groups look like and just getting connected. What you don't want to do though is isolate yourself. You don't want to isolate yourself. Isolation is not healthy at all. It's good for a short period of time, but when it becomes excessive, your mental health is really going to it's not going to improve, it's going to decrease, because idleness is very dangerous. It's very dangerous, and is not healthy at all. So when to seek help for mental illness? These are some of the signs that you guys need to watch for. If you are constantly being sad, feeling like you have no hope and it's lasting more than 2 weeks, you need to run quick, fast, and hurry to go get you some help. Severe changes in your sleep pattern, and your appetite, and your energy level. You have your energy is just like zap. You need to go in to seek help. Difficulty focusing and maintaining and keeping healthy relationships and just functioning, whether it's at work or school. And then if you having thoughts of self-harm, thoughts of suicide, then you want to go and get you some help. Um, when you're going to go get help, we're going to talk about that probably in the next podcast, but you have to know that there is an issue first before you go and get help. If you don't realize that there is an issue, you won't never go get help. If you're going to get help because you're trying to keep a relationship, you're trying to keep a marriage, you might as well not go get help, because you're not doing it for the right thing. You're doing it for someone else and not for yourself. It is not until you realize that you need help and then you go get help that will work. I do want to say this, that your mental health impacts your physical health, and your physical health impacts your mental health. So a lot of times when I do have clients that come and see me, one of the first things that I tell them to do is go to your doctor and get some blood work done. And you're like, what? That got to do with that? Because there are some medical conditions that will have an impact on your mental health. And so you want to go to the medical, you want to go to your PCP to go and get the blood work done so you can rule out that you're not having these symptoms because there is a medical issue. If there's a medical issue, you want to be able to make sure that you get that taken care of, but at the same time, you still can get your mental health taken care of too. Let me give y'all an example. So I took care of my mom the last 6 months of her life. One of the things that a lot of older people have when they get old is urine tract infection. There is no physical sign of knowing none of that. I'm going to tell you how I knew after I took her to the doctor for the first of many times for this condition. Her mental capacity changed. It was off the chain. I'm like, oh my goodness. So took her to the doctor. Oh, she has a urine tract infection. We're going to give her this medication. Gave her the medication and everything leveled and balanced out. That's just one example, but there's a lot of physical illness that you can have that impacts your mental health. So it's very important that you guys go and see your PCP and have those tests done to rule out if it is something physical. When you don't take care of your physical, it impacts your mental. When you don't take care of your mental, it also impacts your physical. Okay, so I think we're coming to an end. What to do? I want you to go out and find help. Everybody needs a therapist. Go and see one. I'm going to get into that the next podcast. If you're in a crisis, so if you continuously having suicidal thoughts and wanting to kill yourself, and you have a plan and you have an action, reach out, dial 988. There's a suicidal hotline, making sure that you connect immediately with someone so you can get some immediately help. If you're in the Tulsa area, call COPES. COPES is a real good resource for crisis. If you're in a crisis and having a suicidal, crisis and having those suicidal thoughts, making sure that you call COPES, and they will be able to help you. So everyone has mental health, and it's up to us to maintain it and to keep it, to care for it. And just remember, if not, it turns into mental illness, but it is not the end of life, the end of your quality of life. You just got to take care of it. And this ends the first podcast. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to send in your questions so I can answer them for you. Until the next time, have a great day. And in Tabitha Brown words, if you're not having a great day, don't you go mess up somebody else's day.